Hey everyone, let's quickly wrap up December before we talk about reading stats of 2024 and reading goals of 2025 in my next video. So December I didn't prioritize reading because I wanted to focus more on setting up goals and systems and ideas and thinking about what I want to do next year. That culminated in my life goals video, which is one of the 2 videos I uploaded in December. Thank you all for sharing your goals and results for 2024 with me, and thank you all for watching, of course. The other video was basically a vlog, and I mostly only read or finished in that vlog The Unkindness of Ghosts. And I'm going into more detail during the vlog, but I didn't particularly like this book. Not because the book was bad. And Unkindness of Ghosts is set on a spaceship, and it's one of those stories where you have the whole population and society on a confined place, the spaceship. And we have upper decks and lower decks, and of course we have the rich and white people on the top, and we have the poor and working class people at the bottom. So by that setup you can already tell it's a story about society, inequality, and the rich do this thing and oppress the poor and all those things. None of that is bad, and the writing and everything wasn't bad either. I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook was really, really well done. I was just bored with the story. I really couldn't connect to the characters. I wasn't interested. There was an interesting aspect of the characters that we followed, but most of it I didn't care, and I don't really know if I understood the ending completely because it didn't do anything for me. So I noticed with this book that I had it on my wish list mostly because a lot of people were talking about the author lately and how their books are good and they should be read and more people should read them, and they tick sometimes diversity boxes that I completely forgot because I wasn't reading it for that part. I was interested in the books because so many people talked about it, and especially this book, as being a good book. But even though it didn't work for me, it might work for you. I just noticed that I'm not interested in these kinds of stories at the moment. I don't really get anything out of them, and I've read quite a few of those or seen movies about that kind of setup. So it wasn't anything additionally new for me. Maybe I missed it, maybe someone can tell me what was so great about it, or you experienced the same, that you picked it up because you felt it was something that should be read, but you were not really interested. And that is something I want to stop going forward, because another book I DNF'd also falls into this category. I started Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor, and I liked her Binti series and I really enjoyed her writing there. And I can't say I have anything against the writing in Lagoon, but I didn't get far because I got so annoyed with the oppression of women, violence against the women, and some asshole priest, let's say it like that. I don't really know how else to say it, but he was manipulating his followers, and I don't really know what the end game of everything was because I didn't finish. And that is something I want to stop going forward, that I'm picking the books that I think I should have read for valid reasons, but that are mainly talking about a topic and themes that for the moment are not doing anything for me or I am not interested in at the moment. That doesn't mean I will never enjoy those books again, but currently they're just too much. I'm not interested, and that's not fair to the books, so I DNF'd Lagoon and went on to something else. So what else did I read in December? I read more of Brandon Sanderson. In December, I finished this short story and novella collection Arcanum, Unbounded, and the last book in the second era of the Mistborn series, The Lost Metal, and I enjoyed both. What I really enjoy about these 2 books is how they make the existence of the Cosmere much more present. In all the other books that came before that I've read by Brandon Sanderson, this wasn't really mentioned in the books. I knew the Cosmere existed, but I didn't really get what it was because I hadn't come across it in the books themselves. But the short story and novella collection really puts the world, the Cosmere, the universe into a perspective, talking about the different planets and different stories and short stories and novellas that are considered part of the Cosmere reading list. And I really enjoyed that, but you have to be aware that there are spoilers for some of the series. So I didn't read the last novella, Edgedenther, I think it's called, because I haven't read the Stormlight Archive yet, and it's considered, I think, book 2.5 or 3.5 of that. So I really need to do that, but I have that separately as an audiobook, so I counted the short story collection as finished. And The Lost Metal is the finishing of the second era of the Mistborn series, and there you really get connections with the other planets in the Cosmere. So I do think I might have spoiled myself a little bit for other things that are coming, but it's okay. I'm fine. And I really liked that, how it all ended and how it came to a conclusion and where everything is at. So I'm really looking forward to getting more into the Cosmere next year. Before we go on to happier books, let's skip to another DNF. In December, as I wasn't prioritizing reading, I was also looking for enjoyment reads, things that really do something for me on various levels, even if it's just enjoyment or fast-paced or furthering my look into what I wanted to do with my life goals. And I was looking for fun stuff. And the Jinn-Bot of Shantiport was something that had a super interesting cover. I had never heard anyone talk about it. I literally just came across the cover and the blurb, or it was sold as something like an Aladdin retelling and some Murderbot vibes. So, and we all know I love Murderbot. And the cover, like I said, beautiful. So I went for it. It sounded interesting. And I got about, I think 20-25% in when I got annoyed. The Aladdin retelling didn't happen until that point. We are stuck in a world that is somehow hard to understand. It's not that we get an info dump in the beginning, but we're just thrown into the story, and then we get snippets more and more about the story and the world and the characters, which I normally like, but it made it rather hard to understand where we're at just now. So I still don't really have a full picture of what is happening on the world and what Shantiport exactly is. But it is ruled by a prince who apparently is a little bit not in power, and some mafia bosses, let's say it like that. Might have misunderstood that. So, but we're mostly following siblings, one woman and a bot construct. And I'm not really sure how he came to be the bot, and all of that is still missing. But what happened is that the writing had too many adjectives for me. And the storyline of the woman, I don't know what her incentives are or where she wanted to go, but she was kind of hooking up with the prince for some reason and following a scheme that I didn't get so far. Might become clearer as you go on reading. But what really, really put me off was the brother, the bot construct thing, because he just oozed the I deserve better. I want more, and no one takes me, no one values me. And he behaved like a little spoiled brat, and that was annoying. The thing that I think was supposed to be Murderbot-like is the narrative style, because there was another bot that was a bio-bot, so someone who narrates the stories of others. And that was the most interesting part about it, but it wasn't enough. I just got bored, so I stopped. Because none of this was really happy, and I was looking for some fun, fast-paced reads, I decided to finally give in to the recommendations that Kindle kept pushing on me for months now, and started reading The Husky and His White Cat Shizun. I did not know that that series has 9 books, where the last 2 haven't been published yet. I didn't know that. I thought I was going into a 4 or 5 series that is finished. I also kind of misunderstood or misremembered about the reincarnation part. So it's a reincarnation story. And I thought that the evil overlord, when he died, was reincarnated into a cat and not his younger self. What happened? So I got exactly not what I wanted or was looking for, but I got sucked into it. The story is one of those cultivator fantasies that you have in China with the godly realm, the mortal realm, and the ghostly realm, and we're following a cultivator. And our main character was a real evil overlord, and that's how we get into the books. We meet him before he dies. We learn a little bit about him and basically see the end of his life. And then he gets reincarnated into his teenage self before the love of his life was killed by the hate of his life. So we're back at the sect where they cultivated and learned their thing, and their teacher, who's the person he hates the most, and one of his fellow disciples are still alive and don't know anything about any evil parts because they hadn't happened yet. And this is the main story, that we follow the main character being younger and remembering what happened in the future and expecting the same things to happen, but he wants to stop his teacher killing his friend. And so we go into this seeing him completely smitten with his fellow disciple and trying to not be too mean to the teacher. But as the story evolves, more and more becomes clear that the teacher and the evil overlord had sort of a strange relationship towards the end of their lives as well, which is the part where I'm confused. I started reading Danmai because I came across several posts where people said that a lot of asexual people prefer Danmai to the romantasy parts because it's less sex and less graphic, and I'm all for that. I like the romance parts, but dang, I've read way too much graphic sex last year when I had that insomnia phase. And so I discovered Danmai as an alternative. And for some reason, the ones that are published in book forms by Seven Seas are somehow more graphic sex or more sex focused than I expected. I do like the cultivation stories, so I am in the fantasy worlds, which I really enjoy. And with this book, we haven't really met many adventures. We're mostly in the sect and between these characters. There's also another disciple, so there's 4 people that we basically have as our main characters and follow around. And I do enjoy it. I do enjoy being in their presence and seeing them do stuff and their connections and friendships and all the flashbacks of the evil lord and his teacher after everything was really awful already. And there is a part where sex is strangely used in this book. The book starts already with describing our main character, the evil lord, by his sexual progress and his member, and how he's liked by everyone and how he's basically sleeping with everyone. And the more the story progresses, we find out that he is using sex to punish his teacher, which is a strange combination and also a conflicting feeling, or causes a conflicting feeling in his younger self now every time he sees his teacher be nice to other people. So he's confused if he actually really loves his fellow disciple or if he has stronger feelings for his teacher. And there are things going on. I don't know if that is a spoiler. It's the first book in 9 series, but the teacher really likes the disciple, the evil lord, as well as a disciple, and always has apparently. So there are some things that happened in the past that probably went wrong and were jealousy and not other things, how the evil lord interpreted it. And I do like that. I started the second book, and because the first one ended on a sort of misunderstanding cliffhanger, I put off starting the second book, and I just did that yesterday. So on the 1st of January, first read of the new year, and I am quite happy how it continues, but there is so much more going on. And I noticed in the second book more than in the first one that the writing is more telling than showing. But I don't really mind at the moment because it's very easy to follow that way and you don't have to think that much, which is perfect for my unfocused crazy brain right now. Enough of that. I rambled on about this quite a lot. Let's move on to some self-help. Leena Norms published her non-fiction, The Half-Arse Human. And because I like Leena and watched her channel for, probably a decade or longer now, and I was interested in supporting her with the book first of all, but also in her take on the self-improvement, and I really enjoyed it. It is, like the title says, The Half-Arse Human. you can't be perfect in everything. You have to adjust your expectations, and then you need to figure out what you can do with the capacities and energies and abilities that you have. And I really like that because it takes into account the reality of many, many people. You are not perfect, and striving to be just makes you really feel like a failure because you're never achieving the thing that you set out to do, instead of adjusting it and making the goal smaller. If you follow me for a while, you know that that is one of my main criteria, what I like about self-improvement books, that you can find it and adapt it to yourself in your life, and you don't have to do it the one way that exists, that the author said. If you follow Leena around like I did, and you think you cannot gain anything more from the book, you're wrong. There were so many good advice and tips for how to deal with things and examples of how things really are, that I really gained more towards what I already know from her, following for years now. And if you don't know Leena and you're not sure if you want to buy a book by a YouTuber that tells you how to half-arse your life, maybe check out some of her videos on climate crisis or clothes, see how she talks about things and her attitudes and opinions. They give you an idea if you might like the book or not. I listened to the audiobook narrated by her. It was a blast. At that time, we were pretty close to the end of the year and I didn't want to start anything big. So I picked up the Sleeping Car Porter, which a lot of people recommended and talked about as being so great. And I had it on my wish list. I thought it's a little bit over 100 pages. I can get through that on vacation the last few days in the year. And I managed, and I enjoyed it, but I forgot why everybody loved it so much. Now, this book is historical fiction, which I wasn't really aware of, and the writing is interestingly amazing in what it does, and I think it set out to do. We follow this sleeping car porter in 1929, I think, or 1930, and he's a black man and he's a gay man, and so we mostly follow him, learn some flashbacks around things, but we're on a train ride with him, or actually two different train rides. But the first one is just an introductory one. The second one is a longer one across Canada. And things happen on the train ride. They hit a mudslide, so they are stuck for a few days in the same place. And we learn a lot about his life, his routine, and also the passengers and the people he interacts with and how they treat him. And in the beginning, I thought, okay, I like the writing, I like the characters, I think this is interesting, but where does it want to go? And it was very repetitive and monotone because it was focusing on what he does and how he acts and things like that. And at some point, I realized that's what the book does. It's showing us the daily life or the routine of the sleeping car porter, of the sleep deprivation, and the mistreatment, you could also say it, of the passengers. They just demanded, and never took into consideration that he's stuck on that train as well, and that he's basically trying to survive on little sleep and little money. Something I think that might put people off is the effects of the sleep deprivation, because he's having hallucinations a lot. And as someone who suffers from insomnia and knows how it feels to not sleep and just basically stumble through the day with not enough sleep and imagining things a lot, not as badly as he does, but I thought that was really well done. That's the part I really enjoyed. And I think the historical part of representing what a sleeping car porter did in the past, I don't think we have those jobs anymore, actually. I don't know if we have them in Germany at all. Well, I don't know, but in Canada they did, and this was very well done. And because I finished that faster than I expected, I had some time left to read something short. So I read Waiting on a Bright Moon, a short story, science fiction. We're thrown into a world that is very authoritarian. We're thrown into a world that is very authoritarian. That is a hard word for me to say. And there is a main planet and I think a couple of colonies on moons or something. And we follow a main character, you. It's in the second person that it's narrated. And you're basically a radio contact to the original planet. And we learn about the magic system a little bit, and that there are mages and the Ansibles, that's what your job is, or what you are trained in a similar place. And there is an interesting aspect that the mages, when they are trained, you have a look and see if they're capable of being an Ansible, if they are attracted to the same sex, basically women. I don't even know if it's for men or if it's only women. But to be an Ansible, you need to be a cluster of people, and then you have one on the main planet and the colonies get the others. So there is that qualifies you for that if you're interested in women. We've learned that throughout the story a little bit. And to be a mage, you have to be interested in men apparently, or you hide that you're interested in women like our main character does, and you are very much in charge and you're the law. Whatever you say is the law. That's sort of the backdrop, but the main story is it's a rebellion against the dictatorship and the emperor and everything. Now, I did like the world building, but I wanted more. I did like the relationship between the Ansible and the mage and how that happened. I wanted more. Then the story ended after the rebellion happened and something happened and it ended. And I was like, but I want to know what happens next. So I think that is a good thing, because I was not completely 100% invested all the time, but I was invested enough to want more of it. But now I will never get it. That's how it goes, right? I think I rambled enough about what I've read in December for not having read that much. But funnily, I haven't read or finished many books. I read the same amount of pages and minutes on average that I do every other month. So I guess I didn't read that much less, but I was on vacation for a week. Let's not ramble on. Let me know in comments how you ended the year. Did you read a lot in December to reach your reading goal? Or did you finish something that you started a long time ago just to leave it in the old year and not take it to the new year, as we do, don't we? Let me know in comments how you're doing, and I'll talk to you soon.